So we are talking about the classic movie, The Last Shark, a 1981 Jaws rip-off produced by the Italians basically to cash in on the Jaws fever that was kind of gripping the world at that kind of point in time. This one is directed by Enzo G. Castelli, and it stars James Franisscus and Vic Morrow, and it was called a variety of different things. Obviously The Last Shark, it's probably most well known sort of English language title. It was also called Great White. It was called Jaws the Return in Japan, and its Italian title is Il Ultimo Squalo. So this film is very much like the original Jaws movie, so much so in fact that it was actually blocked in court by the makers of the original Jaws film because it was accused of plagiarism basically, and it was denied a US theatrical release initially. So that should tell you that the story here is pretty much the same. But just in case you're not unawares, it basically focuses on a small coastal town that is basically terrorised by a large great white, and this beast is a big one. And it's up to this kind of like local kind of hero who teams up with this kind of salty old fisherman to kind of defeat the beast from chowing down on the kind of the locals. And of course, just like Jaws, you have this kind of big kind of event involving a kind of a candidate for being mayor or something, and he kind of wants to keep the beaches open, etc, etc. Very much like the original Jaws movie. There are a couple of kind of plot points here that are a little different. It does seem to be kind of Jaws with kind of some of the plot points just fast forwarded. But one thing I did actually like is when they kind of present evidence of this shark, the guy who's kind of running for mayor or whatever, who's painted as to be somewhat of a kind of a sleaze bag, but he's actually not as bad as some of the kind of like these types you'll see in films. He does actually kind of put up some defences and admits that there is a shark after a short time, which you don't get this long drawn out thing where people doesn't believe that there's a shark. It really is only a small conversation where they have that. So I did quite like that. Now this film is obviously on the cheaper side, so it wasn't kind of just recently you had Monkbusters, but this film has some laughably bad bits in it. One of the things that I find most amusing, and there's two things that I find hilarious about this film. Firstly, the wide shots underwater where we see the shark basically. You'll see three types of shots of the shark. You'll see these kind of wide shots, and it's clearly like a small model. It's kind of just floating around basically, and it looks like it's even in a fish tank. It's hilarious because it's just kind of hanging there in the water basically, and looks kind of quite amusing. You'll see the kind of the larger scale shot where it kind of rears its head out of the water a few times, and then you'll also see the kind of like stock footage of sharks basically. But the amusing thing is that the sharks always look a different size and shape basically to the kind of the main one that you'll see kind of rearing out of the water. It's quite funny. So it's clearly they haven't tried to make it look consistent, because the actual shark that you are presented with when we do see it eat people is massive. It's more like a megalodon than a great white, to be honest with you. The other thing I found amusing with this film is people seemingly jumping in the water way before they needed to in regards to the shark. So you'll have the shark kind of like going through a bunch of of windsurfers, for example, and you'll get people who just like fall in the water when there's absolutely no reason to them. The shark isn't even at them yet you'll see them kind of like look like they're being pushed off and things like that. And there's the scene towards the end as well, that's kind of like part of a jetty kind of gets ripped off, and you'll see people like clearly not getting knocked off, but they'll kind of act like they do and things like that. There's a few other funny things as well where you'll see the camera from the point of view of the shark, but someone's watching it on a TV screen. There's all these like weird kind of little inconsistent things that you'll have basically throughout the film that are just like very kind of shoddily thought through basically. The effects themselves, obviously, you've got to bear in mind this is 1981, so it's an older film, and it is a cheaper film than kind of the Jaws. But I still kind of like the cheesiness of it, I have to say. I quite like some of the attacks that you'll see where this shark is literally biting through people. I mean, they look clearly, obviously fake, but I did quite like some of them. I quite like there's a few kind of limbs and bitten off and people getting chomped in half and stuff like that. So I did, there are some kind of quite amusing shark attack effects. But this shark is so slow, it kind of like leisurely kind of pokes its head out of the water with its mouth. And you even have people almost placing themselves in the mouth of this shark. It's hilarious. So I have to say, despite, this is not a good film, but it's kind of a fun film to watch, to be honest with you. And it kind of is very much the same story of Jaws, to be honest, but obviously told in a somewhat more amusing fashion to a certain degree. So if you want a comedy version of Jaws, this might be the one for you. But overall, I can't say it's a great movie, but I still kind of had fun watching it. This is a proper B movie, basically. So I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. It's not a great movie, but I kind of still had fun with it, to be honest with you. So have you seen it? What do you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.